This week's Parsha is named Parshat Yitro, in memory of the person who arrived to give thanks to Hashem for the Nisim of Yetziat Mitzrayim and Kriyat Yamsuf, and also for the advice that he gave and was incorporated by the Jewish people about the delegating of authority from Moshe Rabbeinu and the building of Batei Dinim. So this is a major moment. Not only is the Parsha named after Yitro, but Chazal tell us that this one of Yitro's names, he had additional names, Chovav, Reuel. This name of Yitro was chosen for his mention here because it means to add. Yiter, a Parsha was added because of Yitro. Not just any Parsha, the Parsha of Matan Torah. And on a deeper level, the Orach Chaim tells us that the story of Yitro's advice is mentioned here because it comes to show you that even the Goyim have Chachma, have wisdom that they share with us and that we need to learn from them. It's not only us receiving the Torah, all the Goyim have wisdom as well. And I think when you reflect on this, Yitro's greatness and the Parsha being named Yitro, it's all the more surprising that the last pasuk of Perek Yud Chet that describes Yitro and his advice, the last pasuk before we begin the story of Ma'amad Har Sinai, is Vayishalach Moshe et Chotno Vayelech lo el artzo. Moshe sent off his father-in-law, sent him home to his land. Why is Yitro sent off here? Yitro, who was so great, who the Parsha is named after. So Rashi tells us he was sent L'gayer b'nei artzo, to proselytize, to teach people in his land. The question, I think, still remains. He should go off to teach, but why send him off before Matan Torah? If anything, send him off after Matan Torah, one will have more to teach. I think this is why the Balei HaTosfos and the various Pirushim of the Balei HaTosfos on the Torah quote an interesting idea of Chazal, which goes in a little bit of a different direction. The idea they quote is that Yitro was sent off before Matan Torah because he would have served as a chatzitza, as a block, as a separation between God and the Jewish people had he been there. Yitro, in all of his greatness, was unable to be at Matan Torah. Matan Torah could not take place with him being there. What was Yitro lacking that forced Moshe to send him off? I think the explanation is very simple and very important. Yitro was a person who was a religious seeker. Chazal tell us on the words used by Yitro in Pasuk Yud Aleph, Ato yadati ki gadol Hashem mikol Elokim. Now I know that God is greater than all others. Yitro experimented with each religion. He was a real searcher and seeker. In fact, Chazal tell us that he made a deal with Moshe that one of his children would be sent for Avodah Zarah, the other one would be for Avodat Hashem. Yitro really investigated seriously different possibilities. And he arrived here at the Jewish people having reached the conclusion that Hashem is the real God, having reached this climax. And of course we value that. Rambam explains that we have a separate mitzvah to love Gerim, beyond the mitzvah to love all Jews, to show appreciation for the fact that they've come to see the truth. But with all this appreciation, Yitro couldn't be at Ma'amad Har Sinai because Matan Torah Ma'amad Har Sinai is about something else. As we know, Chazal tell us that God held the mountain over the Jewish people, Kaf aleim harke gigit, to tell them if they accept the Torah, great, and if not, Sham te'et kfuratchem, this is where you'll be buried. Mefarshim ask, why did God have to do this? The Jews had already expressed their interest and their consent voluntarily. Kol asher diber Hashem na'aseh. Why did God have to intimidate them? The Maral and others explain, God wanted the Jewish people to know that Kabbalat Torah wasn't just their choice. It was an ontological reality. It was absolutely necessary. As we know, Chazal tell us, Vayerev vayivoker yom hashishi, that the world was created with the condition that the Jews accept the Torah. If the Torah had not been accepted on the 6th day of Sivan, the creation would have been reversed and the world would have been returned to Tohu Vavohu. A world without the Torah is not possible. Not possible in a functional sense, and not possible on the existential level. The Torah must be accepted, must be fulfilled by the Jewish people. We live in a world that's relativistic. We know we've made our choices, but we see them as our own personal, arbitrary choices. We could just as easily have chosen otherwise. And there are people who seek and search and come to their conclusions. And that was Yitro. Yitro's greatness was his ability to realize what was correct from amongst all options. But Matan Torah is about realizing that our truth isn't just an option. It's an existential, ontological reality, a necessity. And Yitro would have been a chatzitza between the Jews and what Matan Torah was meant to be about. Matan Torah wasn't just the relaying of information. It was a moment, it was an experience where the Jews saw that these beliefs were reality. Anochi Hashem Elokecha wasn't just words, it was something they experienced firsthand and personally. And this is what we need to regenerate when we talk about Ma'amad Har Sinai, when we learn Torah. The Gemara in Brachot tells us, just like Ma'amad Har Sinai was with fear and trembling, be'ema, be'yira, be'reta, u'vezeah, so too when we learn Torah today, we have to re-tap into that reality of understanding the power, the greatness, the significance, the necessity of what we're learning. And that is a very, very important point of how Parshat Yitro needs to be more than just what Yitro added. Yitro brought his Chachma b'goyim ta'amin. Torah b'goyim al ta'amin. Torah is more than Chachma. Torah is the direction of life. Torah is the reality of God's existence and the expectations He has from us and our need to fulfill them. Yitro shows us the greatness of the Goyim. He sent off before Ma'amad Har Sinai so that we can make the commitment to the reality we know to be such. Let's hope that this Shabbat we can tap into what Matan Torah is supposed to be about and add a level to who Yitro was, the level of who the Jewish people should be. Shabbat Shalom.